I now invite you to dive into the heart of a new mobility issue also addressed by Movin'On. What if the autonomous vehicles were to serve outlying regions? Just like Flexi, a co-innovation carried by a consortium born from Movin'On, I now have the pleasure of welcoming the representatives of a community of interest that is also working on the deployment of a new mobility solution for rural areas. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome.
Hello.
So with me today, Nicolas Marescaux. So Nicolas, you're the Deputy Director of Member Needs and Innovation at the MACIF. And on my right here, Benjamin Beaudet, the Managing Director of beti.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you both here. So how are you?
Fine.
Fantastic. So I have lots of questions for you, but we have not lots of time, so we'll try to make it work. So my first question, so probably for Nicolas, like the mobility for all in rural areas, we've seen from the report promoted by the SNCF and the partners of the Flexi Consortium, the credo of your community of interest is autonomy for all in rural areas. So probably to set the scene, what's behind this?
It's autonomy for all, mobility for all. When people think about autonomous vehicles, they think about an individual in his car going to the job. But what will change? A few things. Or maybe robo-taxi, zombie taxis. However, when you look at rural areas, 85% of people don't have the choice. It's a car or nothing. As an insurer, the risks are changing. Mm-hmm. As a mutual insurer, we are keen to work with Movin'On on a more inclusive and sustainable mobility, not with an individual car, but with a shared autonomous shuttle, electric, allowing people in rural or peri-urban areas to move.
Right, so this is new. This is a new transformation in the business of insurance for you. The business is being a little bit reinvented, if I understand.
Yes, and it's not a single actor that can change anything. That's why we are happy to work collectively within the Movin'On Lab.
So, your community of interest aims to encourage the adoption of autonomous vehicles through a vision of sustainable and inclusive mobility. You mentioned it. So, how has the Movin'On ecosystem created the difference for your approach? So, probably both of you, you could just give an insight. But Nicolas, just very briefly.
Right. It started in 2018, the Movin'On Summit in Montreal. Then we took out pilgrim staff to see other members and to see if they would be interested. And today we've got partners both from transport actors such as Benjamin Beti or SNCF. It can be infrastructure with Vinci, it can be autonomous vehicles with Navia, it could be telcos with Orange, data with Microsoft, customer studies with Kantar, etc. So this together, and we also have other insurers. It's really open innovation for sustainable mobility.
Fantastic. So we will discuss about it a little bit more, but let's go a little bit deeper. I mean, the life cycle of your community of interest is very interesting to follow, and I know that you've gone through several phases from identifying a scope of opportunity to full-scale experiments. So we would like to learn a little bit more about this process. I would like just quick reaction on what you've heard and then probably answer the question, Benjamin.
Yes, I agree with Nicolas for the big change for rural area because beti is a spin-off of a small company called Bertolami in a rural area of France called Drôme. So we learn a lot around autonomous shuttle for the last few years, but we understand that our rural area needs to find another solutions for their mobilities without cars. So shared autonomous shuttle are a good solution. For 5 years, we work on our local area, called Val de Drôme, to understand what we can do with that. And we have made the first step of our project in 2020. And in this project, we have made some edu tour with Movin'On and MACIF. And we share what we want to do after that for the next future. And we create the project RIMA.
All right. And probably, Nicolas, just what about yourself?
Yeah, because the first year we deconstructed the object, not on the technology, because how many scientific studies have been done on the autonomous vehicles, in your opinion?
Yeah, maybe a lot.
100,000. But how many out of them are concerned the usage?
That's a good question. I don't have the answer. Tell me.
Less than 200. That's why our community of interest focuses on usages.
To be more concrete, I think that's what's missing.
And so the first year we deconstructed it. The second year we've made a world first, asking the elected officials about their acceptability. 10% say it's garbage. 25% say, okay, it's good, but only for people with disability. And 2 out of 3 elected officials say, all right, it's available, it's useful for anybody, everybody. In the last year, we made a benchmark, and in this benchmark, in rural areas, we discovered that it was Beti, Val de Drôme, with Vinci, Navia, which was the best field of experiment to go further.
So you managed to push government officials, even if there were not so many of them, but that's a good start.
Yes, and we won with Benjamin, with Vinci, with Navia, France 2030
right.
business.
So, yes, Benjamin, you wanted to add something?
Yes. What we want to create is a real area use case. We don't want to replace any system. We create new system because in our area, we don't have any mobility solutions like in a city. So we need to create something for a lot of people, young people, old people, people who works, people who doesn't work. It's very important for us to create something new. And we think that with autonomous mobility, we can bring a new future for this territory.
And obviously, I understand that your skills, what you bring together, is very complementary. So tell us, how does this work in real life? Who does what?
Actually, we have 4 private companies on our project. The first one is Navia. They build autonomous system in France and all around the world. They have autonomous shuttle, and we use this autonomous shuttle. For the first time, we will have 7 autonomous shuttle on the territory. Actually, when you make an experimentation around autonomous shuttle, you have 1 or 2 vehicles. That will be the first time that we will have a lot of vehicles. So it will be good to test the acceptability of the people. That is the job of MACIF. There are also instruments for for the experimentation, but they try to understand what people want to and don't want. And in rural area, we need frugal infrastructure. So we work with Vinci to complete all vehicles capabilities with information from infrastructure. And Vinci works with them to develop new things around this autonomous network.
And
Nicolas,
what's interesting is we are working for the common good, so producing some reports and information shared available in French and English to everybody. But as Movin'On motto is from ambition to action, this community led to a consortium, so it's really going from this ambition to concrete action on the field, and not today only on a single experiment, but working tomorrow with a replicable model. For instance, there is in Rome an hospital with beautiful parking lot. So if you have a car, or if you take a taxi or an ambulance, good. However, if you don't have it, too bad. One of the lines of this project is going to allow people going to the hospital. And Benjamin discovered that there are more than 140 hospitals in France in the same case.
Without any public transportation. So if you want to go to the hospital, you need to have a car. And we know that in a few years, a lot of people don't have any car anymore.
This is terrible. When we're in cities, we don't realize that. Yeah. So now, tell me, what are the next steps, right? So how do you envision a large-scale transition? I mean, how do we scale up to push this forward?
We try to learn a lot with this kind of experimentation, and we build an ecosystem with also the territories. They are part of our project. We are a private company, but we also have some territories who works with them because their communities need to find solution and need to build this solution with us. So it's very important to understand and to make this kind of experimentation. After that, we will have three main topics. The first is homologation. Actually, we made experimentation. We need to build a strong homologation, process homologation in Europe, and we work on it also with the French government, but with European Parliament to build the rules to have tomorrow autonomous vehicles on the road, on public road. So it's very important. The second topic is to have a business model,
of course.
because actually we don't have any public transportation or rural area because we don't have any money. So we need to find something where we can have a good business model, and we think that, and it's a test also in our experimentation, that autonomous mobility and autonomous network could have some passenger, but also be used for goods. So we work on goods transportation to make a good business model between passengers and goods. It's the second step. The third step is to have the opportunity to build with other territories this kind of project. And we work with MACIF and Movin'On to create a one-stop shop for these collectivities to find a good answer around our technology, but also use case. So it's very important to create something together when we will have the answers, but they have the questions. So we will try to put together and find the good issue.
Thank you. Very briefly, Nicolas.
Yes. When we asked the elected officials, 15% of them were keen to develop this kind of solution in their territory within the 3 to 5 years. But where do they go? To our one-stop shop.
Right. And Benjamin, I want the same next time you bring it to me.
Of course. It's a pleasure. It's our communauté coq vert.
Coq vert,
yes,
right. It's green rooster, right? Yeah. So which means it's a symbol of sustainable development.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Thank you to both of you. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Nicolas. It was great to have you, and thank you for these enlightening insights. And once again, driven by committed organizations and personalities, as you've seen, moving on communities of interest and moving from ambition to action.